Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here with the Fey Enchantress today, and some of the new Bretonnian regiments of renown gonna be taking on Allarielle, so you know that we're about to have a nasty heal-off here between the two master healers in the game. So let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions. We're actually going to start with the forces of Avalorn here. In the front line, we've got a couple of Dryads, the Puremain Company in the center, Spearmen to the flanks. In the back line, we've got two Sisters of Avalorn and two Lothern Sea Guard. One of them is the Ever Queen's Court Guards Regiment of Renown. We've also got Allarielle the Radiant here on the ground. She's on a horse. We've also got the Fireborn to back them up. Of course, Fireborn are anti-large, fire damage Dragon Princes. Very, very good stuff. They are very expensive, though. The Ever Queen's Court Guards of course, have that magic recharge rate buff, and the Puremain Company have armor sundering. For myself, I've got a front line of Spearmen at Arms with shields, and in the second line here, we've got the Beast Slayers of Baston. They're technically foot squires, but they're essentially like, you could think of them as foot squires with halberds, or men-at-arms with halberds with more armor. They also have better leadership. Pretty decent unit overall. We've also got the Holy Wardens of La Maisontal, which are these battle pilgrims here. They have dual wield, so no shields on these guys, but they have better combat stats, obviously, magic and fire damage. And also, yeah, I believe that's pretty much it, just the magic and fire damage there. In terms of cavalry here, out to the flanks, we've got the Knights Lion-Hearted. These are the Regiment of Renown Knights of the Realm. They have magic attacks, and they also cause fear. So obviously the fear isn't going to be amazing in this matchup, but the magic attacks will help cut through the physical resistance. Same things with the Holy Wardens here. Then we've got the Companions of Quenelle in the center. These guys are questing knights, essentially with some of the Grail Knight characteristics. So they've got Blessing of the Lady, giving them that physical resistance. They've also got a bit more armor, I believe. Would need to double check that, but they also have fire resistance. So specifically, if these guys come into contact with the Fireborn, it'll be pretty decent. And Flaming Sword of Ruin from Teclis is a good potential counter to Grail tier units, so they'll be resistant to that as well. We've got some Grail Guardians and some Grail Knights out to the side here. And then way out here in the woods, we've got the Regiment of Renown Knights Errant. So one thing about Knights Errant is they actually have silver shields. They're one of the few cavalry units in the game that has a 55% missile block chance. They're also relatively cheap, coming in at about 850 points, I believe, for this Regiment of Renown. They gain Frenzy, which is actually pretty solid for a cavalry unit. I mean, obviously the charge bonus is pretty important. Weapon strength and melee attack is always nice as well, giving them pretty solid combat stats. 40 melee attack and 36 defense for this cheap of a heavy shock cavalry. Very, very good stuff. So without further ado, let's kick the battle into full gear, and you can see right off the bat, we're pushing forward. I'm keeping my Grail tier units outside of the range of the Sisters of Avalorn, just because with their magic bows, they can do a lot of damage here. So we'll watch as they unleash their absolutely gorgeous bows here. I think these guys are some of the best looking new unit models in the game. They're going to be just firing deep. Granted, they are targeting mostly peasants right now, even though there are some high value peasants here in these Beast Slayers of Baston and the Holy Wardens and so on. They're taking an absolute thrashing, but that is allowing my knights to get up and around. We discover the Fireborn here with these Knights Lion-Hearted, and they will get severely outclassed by those Fireborns, so we're going to pull back. And then straight up through the center, we're just going to come in on these Dryads for an alpha strike, just pushing straight through. And this is the main issue that you're going to face if you try to take skirmish builds. Look at how easily I just punched straight through that front line. Same thing with these Grail Guardians. They just immediately punch straight through that front line. That's one of the best things about the Lance Formation, is you can really break through a line, and they're immediately going to be standing on top of these Sisters of Avalorn, preventing them from firing effectively. Meanwhile, over on this side, you can see Grail Knights clashing with the Lime Princes. A beautiful combat, man. I love the heavy shock cavalry in this game. We are bringing up the young Knights Errant up and around the side. Likewise, Knights Lionhearted pushing up and around the side as the Fireborn did push through into the center pocket. They are countering the Companions of Cornell. Of course, the Companions of Cornell do have that fire resistance, so it's not going to be great. And a Comet being dropped by the Fey Enchantress there. Allarielle's in this pocket, kind of healing things here, and a little bit of a miscast of the Star of Avalor there. A bit unfortunate. Definitely wanted that over here instead, but, you know, the misclicks happen. Meanwhile, the Fey Enchantress is in this pocket, just kind of draining things out and providing her healing as well. This unit of Everqueen's Core Guards has restabilized, so we're going to try and push through with these Grill Guardians and get on top of them, so that way they're not able to fire. Banishment going down from the Allarielle there. I'm not sure actually how much damage that did to me, but the Knights Lionhearted at this point getting very, very low, as are the Companions of Cornell, so we're going to try and pull away and start to use these peasants a little bit more effectively. They are kind of just standing awkwardly, not really engaging in melee, but yeah, at this point, things are looking pretty solid for me. We've managed to collapse in the back line with these Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, the Regiment of Renown Knights Errant. So they're getting a nice rear charge in here, getting in on these Lothern Seaguard and Spearmen, which are going to be the good targets for them. I mean, obviously the anti-large bonus isn't great, but the fact that they have low armor and not the best stats definitely means that the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis will do well there. But yeah, at this point, the Bretonnian Grail charge, you can see after just shattering that front line, there's not a lot to protect these high-value Sisters of Avalorn and other skirmishers and so on. So Fireborn are going to come in here and try and stem the tide, but there's just way too much cavalry for them to deal with here. Just overwhelming amounts of chivalry here. So yeah, definitely going to be a win for Bretonnia. You can see Pure Main Company over here trying to cut through the rest of these peasants, but obviously the Knights are really where it's at. Fey Enchantress herself, unfortunately not going to get a duel against Allarielle today, but nonetheless, still a very beautiful cinematic combat and a lot of fun. I definitely think that the Regiments of Renown help for Bretonnia. I don't know that they really necessarily bring them to like a higher tier, but it certainly does help, you know, especially because a lot of the cavalry Regiments of Renown have some really nice effects. I really like these Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. I mean, they're not world beaters by any means, but that cheap of a heavy shot cavalry with frenzy and pretty solid stats all around, really, really nice. The Companions of Cornell obviously are going to be a super competitive choice, and oh, it looks like the Fey actually did come in here to finish off Allarielle herself. So yeah, Bretonnia is going to carry the day this time. And well played to Gojira, my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. In terms of the army breakdown here, I mean, you can see the cavalry really carried the day for me. Knights Lionhearted obviously got outclassed by the Fireborn, but the Companions of Cornell racking it up. Same thing with these Grail Guardians, Grail Knights, and 64 kills on the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. Nothing to shake a stick at. Obviously the Peasant Infantry did what it does best and just kind of died, but at least they died slowly. For Gojira, like I said, it's going to be tough to protect this many missiles against a really heavy cavalry build from Bretonnia, just because they have that lance formation. You can really punch through the front line, and obviously if they have more cavalry than you, which most of the time they will because their cavalry generally tends to be cheaper, they can get around the flanks, get into your rear lines, and it's going to be tough. I do think that some of the Regiments of Renown for the High Elves will potentially help in this matchup, like the Regiment of Renown Spearmen. The Phoenix Guard, maybe, although Phoenix Guard are a bit risky, just because you can kind of run in the other direction, and that mostly neutralizes them. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and take a look at another replay just briefly here, because I do have quite a few replays that I'm trying to get out before the actual public patch comes out, because obviously that'll screw up all these replays. So this next one I'm going to be taking Teclis against the Hellebron, once again myself against Gojira, and there's been a lot of good discussion lately about Hellebron. I'm actually going to be showing off the replay between myself and Indie Pride that I think kind of inspired him to look into the blade that she has a little bit further. I do think that the damage scaling might be a little bit off. I'm not 100% sure, but in real-world battle situations, For many factions, it's not super hard to counter her. I do think that some of the more melee rush-centric factions, like obviously vampires, Chaos might have some issues dealing with her. I'm not 100% sure there. Again, a lot of this is all theory until the public release comes, and I mean it may not get released in its current state. Obviously, this is an early access build, so keep that in mind. But you know, I don't know if it's completely wildly overpowered. It definitely seems to be a little bit more powerful than it was intended to be, but this time we're going to see how the Crone does here. I've got Teclis, obviously, we've got Spearmen all around, Pure Maiden Company in the center, and the Scions of Matlan. This is the Regiment of Renown Spearmen that I was talking about. Could potentially be good in the Bretonnian matchup as well. We've also got 2 units of Dragon Princes, make that 3 with the Fireborn out here to the side. Teclis himself is carrying Nets of Amantok, Enfeebling Foe, and Regrowth. We've also got 2 units of Archers and the Everqueen's Court Guards. So I just wanted to do some experimentation with Teclis because he has greater Arcane Conduit while Allarielle does not. Wanted to bring these Everqueen's Court Guards and use this Banner of Avalorn and see how crazy fast we can get his Winds of Magic to recharge. Likewise, the 2 units of Archers give me a little bit wider of a missile line without investing too many resources into it. For Gojira's build here, he's got some Dark Riders out to the flank, Slaanesha's Harvesters supporting a unit of Cold One Knights. Over here we've got another unit of Cold One Knights and another Doomfire Warlock, 2 units of Dread Spears, 2 Hargoneth Executioners, and a Witch Elf in the center. Then he's got a Shadow Sorceress, and Crone Hellebron, who does indeed have her Cursed Blade here. So we'll see how that does in this particular battle. So let's kick it into full gear, and we'll watch as things unfold. And I mean, obviously, Gojira's gone for a melee rush strategy, so he's just going to have to run straight in here. And these Dark Riders, doing a little bit of scouting, are going to potentially discover Teclis here. But yeah, I'm not too worried. They haven't discovered the Fireborn yet, and that's really the main thing hidden in the woods there, so good for me. We're going to start focus firing on these Hargoneth Executioners. Obviously, the Everqueen's Court Guards do have pretty good AP values, so they'll do a lot of damage here, and then the 2 Archers are going to go after the Witch Elves. Since they don't have any armor whatsoever, they're going to be a better priority target. So yeah, you see these poor ladies here are going to be taking a lot of bow fire, as are the Hargoneth Executioners, and already starting to drop quite a few unit models. Definitely some powerful missile play for the High Elves there, and you can see these units both suffering pretty badly. Meanwhile, over on this side, we're going to try and force an engagement with Teclis here. There's a lot of Dark Elf Cavalry coming in, and we need to try and get a favorable engagement, as he does have me outnumbered, even though I may have him outclassed. So, to that effect, Witch Elves being routed off in the center, and we're going to punch the Dragon Princess straight through to tie down the Crone for just a moment. Then we're dropping a Net of Amantok here on this pocket. Spearman going to be coming in to kind of tie things down. Unfortunately, this unit of Dark Riders did get around and is trying to get into my Archers, so I'm having to use the Fireborn to respond to them momentarily. That being said, the Everqueen's Court Guards are going to turn and fire into this pocket. Obviously, the magic damage there on those arrows will be good against the Doomfire Warlocks. You can see the drain effect is going down here on these Pure Maiden Company in the front line. It does look like we're going to be getting a Fiery Convocation and a Penumbral Pendulum almost simultaneously, so double wind spell on both sides there, doing a lot of damage. But yeah, I mean, you can see Hellebron, she's powerful, don't get me wrong. She's going to do some splash attacks, and she'll take out quite a few targets, and it is also going to be proccing that drain effect, you can see. And immediately, as soon as it runs out, it procs again, and I think this is what Gobbo King and Indie Pride had discovered, is I believe there's supposed to be a cooldown period in between when it procs again. But anyway, we've managed to win the cavalry engagement over on the side pretty decisively while simultaneously securing our Archers. That's allowed the Fireborn to come around and collapse in this front line here and try and finish off these Hargoneth Executioners. And obviously Hellebron is going to be dropping that drain effect even on these Fireborn themselves. Actually looks like not currently popping off there on the Fireborn. Interesting. Only going on the Pure Maiden Company, so it does seem to be that the effect might be a little bit buggy. buggy and it might not be functioning properly. But you can see Hellebron's taking quite a bit of damage here, and honestly the drain effect and her by herself isn't enough to take out this pure main company, at least not before she ends up taking a lot of damage. The Dragon Princes over on this side did get outclassed, but they managed to pin these guys in place long enough that we were able to drop a net, use some missiles, and then follow up with another unit of Dragon Princes here to finish things off. You can see that Pit of Shades going down in the front line, trying to spring Hellebron loose. And this is the thing, is if you can isolate Hellebron, if you can clear out her support units and just circle beat her, even with mid-tier infantry like these, I guess Pure Main Company are sort of a high-tier infantry, but nonetheless, if you can just get her isolated and get, you don't want to blob up too much on her because then that drain's going to be getting a ton of value. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's as crazy overpowered as other people say it is. It definitely seems like it might be a little too powerful, or that it might not be functioning properly. I believe there's supposed to be a cooldown time in between when it goes off, which is one of the things that Itty Pride and Gabo King discovered, is that the cooldown time, if there is supposed to be one, it doesn't seem to go off. But at the same time, that was a little bit weird because it seemed like it was going off on the Pure Main Company, but not on the Fireborn. So it's yeah, I'm not sure. The effect might be a little bit buggy and not working entirely as intended. But I mean, obviously for the High Elves, I don't think Hellebron is going to be the biggest issue to deal with. For some other factions, Vampires, potentially. I do know that Vlad can beat her one-on-one if she's on foot. If she's on the cart, that makes her a lot bigger target for things like Terrorgeists. So I'm still not 100% sure that she's going to be wildly overpowered in that matchup. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. With Chaos, that one might be one that might be a little bit tough. Sigvald, as we saw from the testing video, if you guys haven't seen that, definitely go check out my testing video. In that, Sigvald traded pretty well with Marathi. I mean, he lost, or I keep saying Marathi, Hellebron, he lost, but if you were able to pull away or maybe get him a little bit of support, he could probably win that fight. So, you know, I do think that even in melee, there are counters for a lot of the different factions to Hellebron. I think it is worth Creative Assembly looking at to make sure that the blade is functioning as intended, but I don't necessarily think it's wildly overpowered. In terms of the army breakdown here, obviously Dragon Prince is doing very well. Everqueen's Court Guards racking it up, 78 kills, and the 2 archers also doing very well. Since we were able to keep them secure from all this Dark Elf cavalry, it really ended up paying out in our favor. What I've found for the Dark Elves is if you bring the Bolt Throwers and use the Scatter Shot, that's a really effective counter to some of the elite tier missiles for the High Elves. So if he had a couple Bolt Throwers, then I would have been forced to advance on him, and he could have just blasted down these Everqueen's Court Guards using those Bolt Throwers. But yeah, just a little bit of an aside in terms of the army breakdown. I did kind of want to highlight Hellebron here, and I mean, 86 kills seems like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's you know, it's kind of hard to tell. It's definitely, like I said, I think it's definitely worth them looking at, but I don't know if it's as overpowered as other people think it is, certainly. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, though. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you don't miss an upload. And yeah, thank you once again for watching. We'll see you next time.